Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. So first off, a little update. We got the Megashifter installed right here. Everything's solid, working the way it should. Everything's hooked up. We were able to use the brackets that Uncle Ray made from the templates that you guys sent me. So that's all in. I was actually going to do this on video. Two reasons I didn't. Number one, you know, since I bought this used, obviously we had to make some one-off brackets, and I also didn't get the relay and everything that B&M usually provides with these shifters for this car. So the bottom line is I had to do a bunch of just custom wiring and stuff, and you know, it's stuff that most people who buy this shifter wouldn't need to know anyway. So I just went ahead, got it shoved in last night, got it hooked up to the transmission. I still need to adjust the linkage down at the transmission, but other than that, it is good. Now on to the next order of business. In the last video, I was telling you guys I was having a weird issue where what would happen is when we turn the key forward, I would start getting like 7 volts on my starter wire down here. And, you know, I was getting 12 volts when I cranked it after we bypassed the start relay down there. But I was not getting, I was getting 7 volts when I shouldn't be. So last night, while the wife was out here helping me hook up the Megashifter, luckily for me, she's got tiny hands and was able to do a lot of stuff for me on that Megashifter that I couldn't get my hands in there to do. We were testing a few other things. I was trying to figure out what was going on, so I had my multimeter out here, and we also discovered that when I turned the headlights on, I had 9 volts at the starter wire, and that was with the key completely turned off. So at that point, I realized that what was going on is every system in the car was trying to ground out through my multimeter while I was checking that wire. One of you guys actually called it. This is kind of funny. I'm going to apologize to you now. I can't remember who it was, but I'm apologizing now. One of you actually said it sounds like a grounding issue. And at first I didn't think that's what it was, and I replied back. I wasn't sarcastic or anything, but I was like, look man, I've got tons of grounds on this thing. You know, I've got engine to frame ground, I've got engine to chassis, I've got battery to engine, I've got battery to chassis, blah blah blah. You know, I was like, there's no way it could be a ground issue. Well, after I realized that the headlight circuit was also grounding out through my multimeter, at that point I was sure that, you know, yes, you were right, guy. It was definitely a grounding issue. So the first thing I did was I went to the back where I had my chassis ground, and I thought maybe that chassis ground wasn't, you know, wasn't connecting well, because I did just ground it to the seatbelt bolt. So I went back there and I was kind of wiggling on it and stuff, and I checked my continuity between it and the battery and everything, and I was like, okay, that ground's good. That makes no sense. So then I come back up here, and guess what I did, guys? You remember about a month ago when I made a video, 4 reasons your LS swap won't start, and I believe it was reason number 3 maybe, was you don't have all your grounds hooked up. And I even specifically told you in that video the ground's on the back of the heads. Well, here's what happened. The first time I went through and checked everything with the C100 harness that I had modified, everything was good. Well, after I took the C100 harness off and I wrapped and loomed everything, made it look all pretty, I put it back on. I started that ground bolt over there on that head, and I never finished tightening it up. That was the problem the whole time, guys. It was the ground from the C100 harness to that head bolt right there. I had it on there, but I didn't have it tightened up. So I tightened it up. Everything checks out now. Everything's working the way it should. Awesome. Now, I've been kind of putting off getting the Holley mounted and hooking all the Holley wiring and stuff up until this point, because I did not want to risk something trying to ground out through the Holley ECU or something like that and frying the Holley. So now that that's all done, we can move on to hooking up all of our Holley stuff here. So that's kind of what I'm doing in this video. It's not going to be anything spectacular. it's pretty basic, guys. With the Holley harness, we're just going to go through, we're going to plug everything up that needs to be plugged in. We're going to lay our harness back here across the back of the block. The only real other connections you need to make, and I've put a Deutsch connector on this, but you know, in addition to the plugs you have there, you're going to need to hook up your fuel pump, which is the green wire on the Holley. You've got to hook a constant 12 volt up to the red wire that's sticking out of the Holley harness. That is for the fuel pump relay that is built into the Holley harness. And then we've got our tack wire hook up there. Now, I have actually already done that on my C100 harness that I made. You can see I put the female Deutsch connector right there on that. So that's all plug and play for me now. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through, I'm going to hook up my 2 grounds off the Holley harness onto the back of my heads here, and I'm going to plug in what I can for now. I don't have the intake on at the moment, but I'm going to plug everything else in, and then we're going to move on to mounting the PCM. Good. We got, these are just for our 2 coil harnesses on either side of the engine. Our fuel injector harness plugs into that. We're not going to bother plugging that in until we put the intake on. Everything else is ran here. Let's see, we got, this is for our wideband. This is going to go up here to the front somewhere, most likely. I got all this loomed up now, except for these 2 wires, which I still need to trace back and remove since we're not running AC. Now over here, this is our inputs and outputs. The only ones I'm going to be using currently, let's see here. I've got my cooling fan, which it's ground to activate. I'm going to be putting that on one of the outputs. I will be putting the nitrous solenoids on one of the outputs so I can run it progressive, and I'm kind of drawing a blank to the rest right now, but yeah, anyway, all this is hooked up now that can be hooked up until I put the intake on. So I'm going to move along now and show you how I'm going to mount the PCM in the factory location. Kind of took me a few minutes to figure out what I wanted to do, but here's the deal, guys. The factory PCM, there is a clip that engages this recess in the factory PCM case. So you pretty much just shove it up in the dash and it clicks into place and it holds it up. So what I decided I wanted to do is incorporate that feature when I'm mounting my Holley. So basically what I did is I took the factory PCM apart. This is going in the garbage. I cut the case to allow the Holley ECU to sit in here. Drilled some holes, put some screws and bolts, and that's it, guys. We should be able to just plug everything in and click this thing up into the dash and be good to go. So we're going to go ahead, plug our power cable in and go in the car and see what we can do here. I don't have a whole lot of light under here right now, but basically what's going to happen, I'm going to go ahead and plug my connectors in. I'm going to go ahead and plug my harness in that's going to go to a USB for my laptop, and then this whole assembly should just shove up in here and lock into place. Big plug, small plug, kind of twist it up here. just like that. Oh, can't forget my tuning cable. Yeah, guys, I'm using a Holley HP, and the Holley HP does not come with the little quick start screen and, you know, the little touch screen interface. I mean, you can buy it separate, but it doesn't come with it like a Terminator X does. So the only way we have to make a tune or load a tune is going to be through this USB cable. So everything is plugged up. Now we just got to see if it'll slide up and lock into place. Which we're really hoping it will. If I can find where it latches. Now, I done this last night before I permanently mounted the PCM in there, so I think stuff's just getting in my way here because I didn't have any problem last night. There it goes. Okay, we're in. That's it. PCM's up there. This cable here for my laptop, obviously, I'll probably just leave that flopping down here. And I've still got to go through my my C207 harness here. I'm going to look for probably the wire that used to trigger the factory PCM to come on. I'm going to run that down here through the old bulkhead hole here, and there's some wires on the other side for a ground and a power on for the Holley. So yeah, my plan's to use those, so I got to go through that. So when I finish with this, there'll probably only be a few wires still coming out of this. Everything else will be gone. So once I get that hooked up, we can put our cover plate in place here, and what I can probably actually do is drill a hole in the cover plate for my laptop, you know, my USB wire here to go through, where I can just kind of shove all the wire down inside the cover plate that goes here when I'm not using it, and you know, just leave the USB sticking out. Then when I do need it, I can just pull it all out. So that'll work out good. As far as power and ground, this isn't really a tutorial video in case you hadn't figured it out, but power and ground for this Holley needs to go straight back to the battery, straight to the battery, like nothing needs to be teed off of it. And in the battery relocation video, if you guys remember, I already ran a power and ground straight from the battery, so here they are under the carpet. So what we're going to do at this point is we'll pull this back to where it needs to be for me to get the side panel back on this car and tuck it up, and then I'll cut the wires off from the back. I'll probably cut them a little long, tie these wires together, and just leave it here under the carpet. Now, I know some of you who haven't been following the video progress of this build are probably like, why are you having to crimp in line to the Holley harness? Did they not give you enough line? Well, this Holley HP unit was donated to the channel, and it was a used unit, so it did not come with the normal abundance of power wire that a Holley HP or Dominator or what have you would normally come with. So that's why we're having to crimp it. Let's see, I just want to unwrap this so I can cut one wire at a time so I don't ground this out, because this is still attached to the battery at the back of the car, so we don't want to be grounding stuff out. We've had enough of the ground bullshit issues. today. We don't want to do that anymore. So we'll go ahead and start with our positive here, and we'll go ahead and get it crimped in. Well, why don't you just go to the back of the car and unhook it from the battery, Robert? Because I don't feel like it, that's why. Alright, there's that side. Now we can go on to this side. Looky there. Cheap ass crimpers. I don't recommend them. But they do work. Alright. Shrink this up. I like this type of crimp. The heat shrink crimp, because you don't have to bother with with using separate heat shrink afterward. They're a little more expensive, but way easier than putting stuff together than realizing you forgot to put the heat shrink on. It makes a nice watertight seal too. Although hopefully we won't have to worry about that inside the interior of the car. If we got to worry about a watertight seal on the inside of the car, then we've got other issues. All right. Wrap this loom back around here. We're going to encase this up as far as we can. Should probably trim that, but I'm not worried about it. This split loom that Holley uses will go right around all this. Make it nice and neat looking. And protect it from abrasions. Alright, so that's done. We can just shove this back under the carpet. We got our nice braided loom on there to protect it from scuffing and whatnot. And then we'll take our fuse, which you guys probably can't see any of this, but we'll take our fuse, shove it under there, so it's not bouncing around. Alright, good to go. So at this point, all I have left to do is go through my C207 harness here and figure out what I'm keeping and what I'm not, and depin it. Okay, so I went ahead and got this figured out. I pulled pretty much everything out. These are the only wires I kept out of the C207 harness. All of these wires have 12 volts with the ignition key forward. I did not check yet to see which ones had 12 volts while cranking, because I'm going to need one of those to energize the Holley ECU. Now both of these wires are labeled as speed sensor. The red one is just labeled speed sensor, and it actually has a 5 volt with the key forward. It's putting out 5 volts. Now I'm kind of confused a little bit here. I'll figure it out later. But this grayish brown wire here, it is labeled on the diagrams that I told you to download a couple videos ago. It's actually labeled as speed to instrument cluster, and it's actually putting out like a little under 11 volts with the key forward. So I don't think something's right with that one, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it for now. Like I said, all of these pink wires and this, what is this, brown and white wire, they all have 12 volts with the key forward. I'm going to check which ones have 12 volts while cranking. One of those I will run to the Holley unit to, to energize it. and the others I'll probably cap off for now, and we'll probably end up using those later on to trigger something else, guys. I'm gonna leave them in there, so I know I've got all these ignition hots to trigger stuff inside the vehicle if I need to, is basically what I'm saying. All right, guys, I'm gonna get that wired in. I'm gonna go ahead and end this video, but before I end this video, I just want to make an announcement about an announcement, I guess I'll say. I got some big news recently for the channel. I mean, it's to me, it's a really big deal. If you made it this far in the video, honestly, it'll probably be a pretty big deal to you too. But I'm going to be making that announcement hopefully sometime this week. But we've had a major development with the channel, and I'm really excited about it. I want to tell you about it right now, but I kind of want to wait till everything is together. It's something I've been working on for a while now, and yeah. So I'll let you guys know in an upcoming video. You'll know it when you see it. But I'm going to go ahead, finish getting this wired in, and maybe piddle around with a few other things. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So thanks again for watching. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Now get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.